3 spine-chilling accounts of terrifying secrets hidden within cursed new homes revealed. The Millers thought they'd found their slice of heaven in Oak Park. The perfect house, with a white picket fence and flower beds that whispered sweet promises of tranquility. But beneath that pristine exterior lurked haunting shadows that would twist their lives into a nightmare beyond comprehension. They were stepping into a world where nightmares tore at the fabric of reality. 10-year-old Lily quickly claimed her corner of the house, her art supplies strewn about like a battlefield. With every flick of her pencil, twisted forms emerged, twisting and turning into grotesque figures that seemed to come alive from the depth of her imagination. Tom and Sarah brushed it off, thinking, just kids being kids. But as Lily whipped up drawing after drawing, something sinister hung in the air. The figures weren't creations, they were unnervingly prophetic. Outside, the friendly waves from neighbors grew stiff, their smiles faltering as they exchanged whispers, rumors of the previous owners who vanished without a trace. At night, shadows crept around the corners of the house, much darker than the others. Then came the banging, the scratching, just enough to set hearts racing. Once, Tom pushed back the kitchen door after hearing frantic knocks and gnarled fingers reached into the night, but nothing was waiting but silence, an absorbing silence that felt more mocking than serene. The more Lily sketched, the more the Millers felt the grip of fear tightening around their throats. The drawings transformed into unsettling portrayals of dark silhouettes, eyes glaring from dark corners, and sinister grins peering up from beneath floorboards. "Look, Mommy," she exclaimed, pointing at her latest work, but Sarah felt a chill down her spine. Each stroke of Lily's pencil darkened their threshold between dream and nightmare. As laughter faded from the neighborhood, dark retreats of silence blanketed Oak Park. Friends once eager to visit stayed away. The playground? Empty. Barbecues? Cancelled. Mrs. Thompson, who had first welcomed them warmly, began to knock on their door at odd hours to warn them, her voice a flickering candle in the wind. "Lock your doors at night," she insisted, eyes darting nervously. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The Millers were teetering on the edge of sanity, longing for volume in a world grown silent. The muffled sounds grew more defined, metallic clashing near the back door, scuttling at the windows. One night as the wind howled like a wounded beast, Tom stood frozen, staring into the shadowy expanse of their backyard, and found a disheveled figure lingering there, shrouded in darkness. He surged outside, heart racing violently, but the figure had vanished, leaving him feeling like a character cut from a horror film, caught between what was real and what was merely imagined. A looming storm of dread strangled the air, pulling them closer to the truth hidden beneath their once charming home. Each wicked twist in this tightly woven web felt leaden, and their desire to uncover the past tightened like a noose. As Lily completed another sketch, eyes, clawed hands, the overwhelming presence of despair, darkness enveloped them. The lights flickered ominously, and a low growl emanated from the kitchen. In the heart of their sanctuary, a dark secret brood, twisting their reality, waiting to ensnare them in its grasp. What terrifying truth remained tethered to the past? And could they face the shadows that lurked just beyond their reach? Before it was too late? The night cloaked the Millers' home, its silence now deafening. Tom could feel it pressing down on him, an invisible weight threatening to crush him under its menace. He could almost hear the whispers, beckoning him to venture deeper into the darkness. "Lily!" he called tentatively, the air thick with confusion and dread. No response came from his daughter's room, only the unsettling sound of rustling paper echoing from the corner of the house. He turned to Sarah, her face pale, eyes wide with fear. "I'll check on her," he said, forcing himself to move toward the hallway that felt miles long. With each step, shadows twisted and warped around him, creeping along the walls as if alive. The illustrations that Lily had drawn began to crowd his thoughts. Those eyes, those claws, each felt like an omen of something far worse waiting to unfurl. He could picture what she had sketched: dark figures with menacing smiles, lurking behind forbidding trees that exploded into life and menace. He hiked up his courage, pushing the door to Lily's sanctuary wide open. The room was a chaotic mess, art supplies flung around as if a tempest had torn through it. "Lily?" he asked again, his voice quavering. She sat in the middle of the storm, pencil in hand, eyes darting wildly between her drawings. "Daddy, look!" she exclaimed, breathless. She pointed to her latest creation, a scene depicting their home with shadows seeped into the walls, figures creeping from the floorboards. "What have you drawn, sweetheart?" Tom knelt beside her, trying to suppress his rising terror. "The scary people, they're here." Her voice was eerily innocent, but she spoke with absolute conviction. Before he could ask more, a shuddering crash sounded from the living room. Tom's heart plummeted. "Stay here," he commanded, although Lily's wide eyes screamed for him not to go. He bolted from the room, each step echoing in the chilling silence. In the dim light of the living room, something shifted. A shadow crossed before him, skimming the edge of his vision. Tom's pulse raced. "Sarah?" His voice cracked as he called for her. No reply, just the sound of heavy breathing, labored, unnatural. He felt coldness grip his throat. It swirled around him, threatening to steal his breath. The air grew thick like a fog, clinging to his skin. "Get out!" a raspy whimper whispered from the depths of the dark. Terror coursed through him, stronger than fear alone. He stumbled back, colliding with the edge of the furniture, heart hammering in protest. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, revealing a figure standing cloaked in shadows, eyes blazing like smoldering coals. Its mouth twisted into a gaping, grotesque grin. Tom froze, paralyzed by fear. Then, the faint rumble of a child's laughter echoed through the house, kaleidoscopic images of Lily's drawings spinning in his mind. A realization slammed into him: this was no illusion. The danger was real. The house was not just haunted. It cradled something dark, something ravenous. He screamed for Sarah, as the shadow moved closer, sending icy fingers spiraling up his spine. "Daddy!" Lily's voice pierced through the chaos, blending into that ominous resonance. In that moment, a door slamming echoed from somewhere within the house, reverberating through the walls like a cannon shot. The shadows shrank back for a moment. What was that? He gasped, dread coiling around him. His daughter stood framed in her doorway, clutching the latest haunting drawing. "We have to go, but we can't leave it behind." She shook the paper, her face a mix of fear and conviction. Tom's heart sank. They were trapped in a web spun by something sinister. How long could they hold on before they were consumed by the darkness? As the figure lunged forward, a scream of terror built up in his throat, echoing his daughter's own. He realized with dawning horror, maybe this was just the beginning. What would happen if the house and its secrets claimed them? And there, in that moment suspended between terror and reality, they faced a choice: unravel the nightmare or flee from it. But what was lurking? Waiting for them to make that decision? The darkness seemed to swell, stretching and contracting like a living thing, encompassing Tom and Lily in its suffocating embrace. The grotesque figure lingered just out of reach, its eyes burning fiercely in contrast to the shadows, hungry for their fear. "Lily, come on!" Tom shouted, panic cleaving his voice in two as he grabbed her hand. But as he turned, the living room slipped into chaos. The walls groaned, the floorboards creaked like skeletal fingers reaching for them. The very structure of their home felt unsteady, as if it were alive and writhing with sinister intent. He dragged Lily toward the front door. But dread twisted in his gut, rooted him to the spot. What if they opened that door and something worse awaited them outside? "We can't just leave," he yelled, pulling her closer. The drawing in Lily's hands trembled like a captured bird. Suddenly, the oppressive silence shattered. A wailing shriek erupted from somewhere deep in the house, echoing off the walls like a thunderclap. It clawed at their sanity, wrapping around them and tugging painfully at every strand of hope they had. "Daddy! We have to get it out!" she cried, her small voice almost lost in the cacophony. The drawing fluttered in her grip, the shadows proportionally deepening on the paper, capturing a movement that felt all too alive. Tom's eyes jerked to the paper, and a chill slithered through him. The figures he had thought were still one now appeared to be reaching out, its hand almost breaching the boundaries of the drawn page, beckoning them towards something dreadful. "How?" he whispered, half in disbelief, half in desperation. But before she could answer, the shadow lunged again, this time, with a yawning maw that hinted at a gaping void behind it. "Lily!" he shouted again, adrenaline pumping furiously through his veins. He plunged for the distant hall that led to the kitchen, pulling her with him, driven by instinct. They tore through their once familiar home, now transformed into a nightmare playground for something malicious. The kitchen felt eerily calm. The stark, white tiles glimmered under the last remnants of light from the fading day, yet the silence here was no relief. It felt like the calm before the storm. Tom rummaged through drawers, panic fueling his actions. "Where is it?" he muttered, pulling utensils out like beads from a necklace. Guards had to be set up. They'd need to fight back. Desperation throbbed within him, punctuated by the rising terror of the situation. Lily clutched the drawing close to her chest. "The book." "Daddy!" she insisted, panic lacing her voice. Something in her eyes, an urgent swirl of fear and wisdom, spurred Tom on. "The old book in the attic," she gasped, "it tells about them." "The attic? Now?" He hesitated, every streetlight outside fading, plunging them deeper into night's embrace. But where else could they turn? "Yes." Lily's voice was adamant, grounded in that innocent determination of hers. "The secrets are in there." With no time to waste, he seized the flashlight off the counter, and together they pressed forward, squeezing through the narrow staircase leading to the attic. Each creak of the stairs rang heavily, a reminder that something awaited them above, a shadow, a truth, or perhaps something far worse than imagined. As they reached the top, the wooden door ominously loomed ahead. Tom felt a cold sweat building against his back. He could almost hear the whispering calls that had seeped into his thoughts. He pushed the door open, the old hinges screeching like a dying animal. Inside, the space was dim, illuminated only by shards of moonlight filtering through dust-laden windows. Old boxes stacked high, books littered the floor. And there, in the center, an unassuming, leather-bound tome pulsed with an energy that felt alive, but as he stepped closer, a shadow shifted behind him. He spun around, heart in throat. The air thickened. They were not alone. The attic door slammed shut, sealing their fate. A bone-chilling laugh echoed inside, drowning out everything else. "Let us see what you really fear." What had they awakened? And could the truth revealed within the pages save them, or would it be their undoing? The air in the attic crackled with an unseen energy, thickening around them like smog. Tom's heart raced, each beat a frantic reminder of their precarious situation. He turned back to the leather-bound tome lying on the floor, its cover dark and worn, yet beckoning. "We need to see what's in that book," he whispered, urgency gnawing at him. "Daddy, don't!" Lily cried, her voice laced with fear. It was a sound that echoed in Tom's mind, amplifying his dread. He hesitated, glancing around the dim space as muted shadows danced across the dusty walls. "We have to know." With trembling hands, Tom knelt and opened the book. Dust billowed up in a cloud, lingering like a shattered memory. The pages were filled with strange symbols and inked illustrations of grotesque figures, each more terrifying than the last. Descriptions of ancient rites and warnings leapt out at him, clawing at his brain. "Look, Lily." He turned the pages, revealing the imagery of what they faced, creatures that lurked in the corner of their vision, cast aside by the light of the everyday world. They were not just drawings. They felt real, alive in a way that made the hair on Tom's arms stand on end. The laughter echoed again, deeper this time, curling through the air like smoke. "It knows," Lily gasped, clutching her drawing tighter. "It knows we're here." "Then we have to hurry," he said, trying to hold on to confidence. "There has to be something here we can use." His fingers raced over words that clawed at his mind, seeking a ritual or any scrap of knowledge that might help. As the shadows twisted around them, the laughter morphed into a chorus of whispers, filling every crevice of the house. Fear, love, regret. The voices slid alongside one another, weaving a tapestry of anguish that filled the attic with a cloying, suffocating sensation. Tom's eyes widened at a particular illustration, a ritual involving a drawing, a sacrifice of sorts. "Lily," he breathed, "this could be a way to defeat it. We need to draw it back to the page." But as he spoke, the shadows thickened, swirling at their feet. They began pulling him back, a tangible force like icy hands grasping for him. "We can't just trap it," Lily cried. "What if it gets loose again?" Tom's gut twisted. He could almost see it creeping toward them. "Would you rather let it destroy us?" Lily's expression faltered, fear clouding her small face as the shadows crept up her legs, creeping steadily closer. "No. Daddy, I don't want that." "Then we need to do this together," he urged. "Can you trust me?" With a shaky nod, Lily spread her drawing across the floor. Tom grabbed a piece of charcoal from nearby debris, its darkness a stark contrast against the moonlit dust. He breathed heavily as he began tracing lines around the figures on her drawing, the shapes shifting under the pressure. The moment he marked the last line, the shadows tore and writhed, a monstrous yowl erupting from the depths of the darkness. The laughter turned to fury, the shadows recoiled, as if realizing they were being ensnared. Tom felt the energy ripple around them like a storm. In that very moment, the tome burst open, and a blinding light emanated from its pages, piercing through the dark heart of the attic. Tom shielded Lily, holding her close, but the brightness beckoned him, pulling him deeper into its depths, making him feel utterly weightless. Suddenly, a flash of images danced before him. Memories of those before failures, successes, lives lost. Each figure in the darkness had once lived, their unresolved endings manifesting themselves in this realm. Then, amid the confusion and unraveling shadows, a scream shattered the fragile link they were forging. The chilling wail echoed, mixing with the cacophony of voices battling for dominance. It was closer now, nearly upon them, as the light flickered and dimmed. "Daddy!" Lily screamed, as a figure shot forth from the shadows, cloaked, monstrous, its hand reaching. And then everything went black. What had they truly awoken? And could the final plea from the pages reshape their destiny, or devour their souls? Forever? Tom's eyes flickered open, gasping for air. The attic was silent now, the overbearing darkness replaced by a surreal gray light filtering through a cracked window. He pushed himself up, every muscle in his body aching, the reality of where he was crashing down around him like an avalanche. "Lily!" he shouted, his voice echoing in the empty space. Panic gripped his chest as he looked around. The leather-bound tome lay closed beside him, the chaos of yesterday dissipated into an uncertain stillness. But Lily, where was she? "Daddy?" A faint whisper floated through the thick air, a sound so small, so fragile. It made his heart leap in hope, but fear lined the edges. "Over here." He sprang to his feet, staggering toward her voice. The shadows felt alive again, hovering around him like a predator. He turned, searching, heart pounding in sync with his terror. He spotted her, huddled in the far corner, clutching her drawing against her chest. "Lily!" He rushed to her, arms wrapping around her small frame. Relief flooded through him, but it was fleeting, a dread still loomed. She looked pale, her eyes wide like saucers reflecting the dim light. "What happened?" Tom asked, holding her tightly, scanning the attic for any signs of the cloaked figure. I don't know, she trembled, her voice shaky. It was darker and then the whispers came back. I saw them. Who, Lily? Tom's eyes narrowed, his pulse racing again. What did you see? The shadows. She whined, burying her face into his shoulder. They were reaching for me, talking about us, about how we shouldn't have found the book. Tom's stomach twisted. He forced himself to look at the tome, positioned innocently on the floor, an ominous invitation. We need to understand this, he muttered under his breath, dread swelling in his throat. He knelt beside the book, the weight of fear dragging him down. As he opened it again, instinctively wary, the pages fluttered as if alive, revealing the illustrations of horrors that had haunted them before. Tom scanned for the drawing they had created together, desperate for the hope of a solution. But panic washed over him when he realized it was missing. What's wrong? Lily asked, her innocent gaze searching his face. It should be here. Tom exclaimed, flipping through the pages, the inked figures mocking him with their grins. Where is it? The air grew colder, and a low growl resonated through the walls, sending chills racing down his spine. Tom felt it, the presence creeping back, clawing up from the void where the light of day once was, ready to consume them again. We have to get out of here. He shouted, panic surging anew. But as he grabbed Lily's hand, the shadows flickered around them, solidifying, creating a barrier. Daddy! She screamed, clinging to him. The shadows formed into shapes, grotesque echoes of the figures from the illustrations. Eyes glowing with an ethereal light watched them, mouths curling into horrific grins. Join us, they whispered, their voices melding into one chilling chorus, intertwining with laughter that seemed to echo from the far corners of the universe. Never! Tom shouted, a primal instinct igniting within him. We will fight. You will not take her. But as the air thickened and shadows twisted, he realized, they were not just trying to trap them. They were here for something else. The tome shook violently beneath them, pages turning wildly as if possessed. And yet, through the chaos, one phrase shot through, a warning, echoing deep within his mind: you cannot hide from your past, it wants to be free. A new sense of dread washed over him, combining with the terror pulsing in his heart. What had they truly awakened? And at what cost? As he looked into Lily's frightened eyes, a swell of determination rose within him. They would confront this nightmare together, but just then, with a sudden blast that rattled the very skeletons of the attic, a hand shot forth from the shadows, no longer just a figure, but a thick, clawed limb reaching for them, ready to pull them back into the darkness. Could they escape the grip of destiny? Time slipped away, the truth lurking just beyond their grasp. The clawed limb lunged at them, a wicked glint in its talons. Tom's instinct kicked in. He yanked Lily closer, throwing himself against the wall, feeling the shadows swirl hungrily around them. The air vibrated with a low, sickening hum, and everything felt distorted, as if reality was unraveling at the seams. Don't let go of me, he commanded, fear threading through his voice. Lily's grip was painfully tight, her small fingers trembling as if she could sense the encroaching doom. The shadows writhed as if alive, coiling and twisting with malicious intent. Tom's pulse raced while he scanned their surroundings, seeking an escape. The room spiraled with an unnatural cold, and the growling grew louder. Each sound burrowed deep into his mind, gnawing at his sanity. Suddenly, a flicker of light cut through the dark, illuminating the leather-bound tome. Against all instinct, Tom reached out. Maybe it has answers. Maybe it can help us. With every ounce of strength, he released Lily, his heart tearing at the thought of losing her to the shadows. He lunged for the book and opened it wide, desperate for any clue to fight back. Pages rushed wildly under his fingers, slamming against each other until one illustration froze him. There it was, a grotesque figure resembling the arm that reached for them, intertwining with another shadowy form. Tom! It's getting closer! Lily cried, her voice a piercing shriek that echoed through the attic. His blood ran cold. He glanced over his shoulder, witnessing the shadow stretch and creep closer, each inch promoting adrenaline through him. Tom turned back to the book, scanning the curling script beside the illustration. The words twisted and danced in his vision. To release what binds you, you must face the dread that lives beneath. What does that mean? He shouted, panic clawing at him, threatening to crush him. I don't know. Lily squeaked, and in that moment, he saw her reflection in the glowing eyes of the cloaked figures, her innocence lost in the merging darkness. The shadows began to pulse, their voices blending into an unintelligible cacophony. He clutched the book tighter, wishing he had never found it. But in the depths of his fury, a realization pierced through the terror. It's connected to us, to our past. The mistakes we made. Whatever it is, we can't let it take us. Lily shouted, her voice brave against the din. Ignoring the dread pooling in his stomach, Tom forced himself to think. We need to reconstruct the drawing. The one that's missing. It could hold the key. Draw it, Daddy. She yelled, streaks of courage cutting through her fear, but the words hung heavy in the air as if weighted by gravity. Now. He needed something, anything, to bring it back, to pull some thin thread of hope out of this nightmare. As he rummaged through the rubble, his fingers brushed against the splintered remnants of a past that haunted him, the cracked pencils and scraps of paper they had used before. I need you to focus, Lily. Draw with me. They knelt together, hands trembling as they created the rough outline of their fears. Distorted figures, swirling shadows, and a bright light in the center, a beacon against the darkness. Keep going, Tom urged, the shadows howling around them, growing restless, almost furious. But just as hope flickered in his chest, the shadows surged with violent energy, howling in rage as if they understood what they were drawing. No. No. It's not finished. Tom shouted, panic sweeping over him as the clawed hand reached closer, now inches from Lily's face. Finish it. She sobbed, her eyes racing with tears, fear quickly filling the gaps where hope once stood. With sharp desperation, he pushed through, every stroke of the pencil filled with dread. But behind them, the growl crescendoed, vibrating through the very walls, summoning the grotesque shadows into a frenzy. They were morphing, shifting, forming into grotesque figures, faces pressing closer, hungry for the flesh of fear. Will Tom finish the drawing in time to confront the shadows? Or will the figures claim them before they can contain their dark past? Heart racing, he pressed the pencil down harder, trembling against the madness that threatened to engulf them. With every desperate stroke of the pencil, time twisted, stretching moments into eternity. Tom could feel the darkness closing in, its icy breath ghosting over the nape of his neck. The clawed hand lurched within inches of Lily, the gnarled fingers inching toward her small frame, stark against the chaos of swirling shadows. Just a little more. He shouted, adrenaline surging, pushing him harder, faster. His own fear had become a deafening siren, drowning out everything but the mounting urgency. Please, Daddy. Lily whimpered, the tremor in her voice striking straight at his heart. He glanced at her, tears streaking her flushed cheeks, eyes wide and pleading. It felt like gravity had turned against them, every breath weighed heavier, the air thick with dread. The shadows hummed, a low growl echoing, reverberating through the attic. They were angry, restless. If Tom failed, they wouldn't just consume him, they would devour Lily. Abruptly, the noise intensified, whimpering and shrieking as if the darkness itself were alive, thrumming like a grotesque, beating heart. His hand flew over the rough paper, sketching furiously, attempting to capture the essence of fear, only to realize, as he drew, he was embedding more of themselves into the creation. The darkness pulsated, absorbing their fear, feeding upon it. Oh God, I can't, it's too much, he gasped, sweat trickling down his back. The shadows seemed to sense his wavering will, the clawed hand writhing closer, each inch thickening the silence momentarily before the next growl erupted. Just finish it, please. Lily screamed, and he caught the glimmer of one last flicker of faith in her eyes, but panic swamped him again. The claw was nearly touching them now, insatiable hunger manifesting in the curled talons. If they didn't finish this drawing, they would be lost, consumed by the darkness once chained to their tortured past. That he gritted his teeth, focused. Frantic lines morphed into figures, shrouded in shadows, intertwining with their own forms. The light in the center grew bright, pure, an unexpected spark against the rising tide of terror. "Tom! Look!" Lily yelled. In that instant, Tom froze. As if grasping a thread of reason, he glanced down, witnessing the lines and shapes they created pulse with energy. Each element representing their fears began to resonate, vibrating against the very essence of the shadows itself. The pulsing shadows shrieked in protest, scrambling backward momentarily as the drawing revealed its raw potency. It was alive, unified in conflict, depicting something greater than they had anticipated. "It's working!" he exclaimed, a flicker of hope igniting in his chest. But before he could rejoice, the growling erupted into an ear-splitting howl. The clawed limb descended with renewed fervor, lunging as if to snatch them from their victory. "Now, let us finish it together," Tom urged, rushing to complete the final strokes, every movement filled with urgency and desperation. They worked in a frenzied harmony, the moment stretching into chaos as the claw missed them by a hair's breadth. Heart racing, the final stroke flew across the page, connecting the drawing, binding it to their fear, their pain. In that moment, the shadows screeched anew, pulling away from the drawing, recoiling as if stung. What's happening?" Tom stammered, feeling the energy shift, a dynamic force surging through the drawing now. Before he could even grasp the enormity of it, the shadows converged, howling again. It was a primal scream, a collective fury igniting. The drawn figures began to separate from the darkness, awash in a bright light, chasing away the shadows like morning chasing away night. But just as victory felt within reach, a dark form twisted painfully from the depths, more grotesque than anything they had drawn. A deep, echoing voice reverberated around them, cold and bitter. "You think you can escape?" Lily clutched Tom's arm tightly, eyes wide in horror. "What is that?" Tom's pulse pounded in his ears. "I don't know, but we need to get out of here. Will they confront whatever darkness looms, or will it drag them down into its depths?" Tom turned to grasp Lily's hand, and as they backed away from the newly revealed horror, an ominous ripple shot through the air, ushering in an unsettling chill. "Keep moving," he shouted, as the unearthly voice echoed, its promise resonating ominously, "You cannot run from me." Tom's heart raced as he pulled Lily through the narrow attic, the dim light flickering erratically. The shadows writhed as if they had a life of their own, pushing against the walls with relentless fury. He felt the deep, cold grip of dread creeping up his spine. "What was that thing?" Lily whispered, glancing back, her earlier bravado flickering with every step. "I don't know, but we can't stop. We have to find a way out." He thrust open a rickety door that led to a cluttered hallway. Dust motes danced in the light streaming through dirty windows, illuminating fragments of their reality, but Tom knew they couldn't linger. As they stumbled into the hall, more shadows pressed in, thickening, mingling with the stagnant air. The familiar shapes of the attic transformed into grotesque parodies. Figurines from their childhood seemed to laugh at them from the shelves, their painted mouths frozen in mockery. Lily's voice trembled, and he tightened his grip around her small hand. Suddenly, the floor creaked, the sound a rumble rolling beneath them, echoing the dark entity's anguished howl. Tom felt it deep in his bones, it pulsed through the house, a reminder that they were never truly alone. The walls seemed to shift, closing in, suffocating. "Daddy, I don't want to die," Lily cried. Each word sliced through him, sharper than the jagged shadows at their heels. "You're not going to die." He propelled them forward, heart pounding like the frantic beat of a drum. The only solution was to find a way to banish that chilling voice, to sever whatever bond it had with them. "Over there." Lily pointed to a faint glimmer at the end of the hallway. It shimmered like a beacon, a door ajar, edged with warmth. But as they approached, dark tendrils reached out from the walls and ceiling. They snaked around Tom's legs, pulling him down. "Lily!" he roared, trying to shake off the shadows, frustration morphing into panic. "Let him go." She yanked at his arm, eyes fierce despite the terror swirling around them. In that moment, caught between fear and fierce love, something inside Tom sparked. "It's trying to feed on us on our fear. We have to be brave, Lily." His voice shook, but he forced strength through his words. He struggled against the pull, recalling the drawing, the energy that had surged between them. "How do we fight it?" she asked, a sliver of determination igniting in her gaze. "Remember what we drew? We put our light into that picture. We just need to believe." Suddenly, the shadows writhed violently, hissing from the walls. "You think your light can save you?" The voice boomed, an inky shadow lunging for them, eyes glinting with hunger. Tom's thoughts raced. "We have to visualize it, feel it again." He closed his eyes, grounding himself in the love he felt for Lily. "Focus, Lily. Think of all the happy moments. Think of where we belong." He sensed her nod, felt her squeeze his hand tighter. Together, they summoned every cherished memory, laughter during family dinners, the warmth of summer nights, the comfort of their small home. Light bloomed within, enveloping them, mingling with their fear, indomitable, pushing back against the darkness that surged. The shadows shrieked as bright tendrils glimmered from within them, battling the encroaching void. But just as they felt the tide shift, the darkness howled, retreating only slightly, shifting into a more solid form. "You will not leave." It bellowed, a sound filled with a deep-rooted rage, unnerving in its familiarity. Tom gasped. It knows us." "Daddy? What do we do?" Lily's voice cracked, uncertainty clawing at her once strong resolve. With every ounce of courage he had left, Tom faced the encroaching mass, energy swirling around them. "We fight back. We aren't afraid of you," he yelled, the words echoing through the hall, surging with power. But the shadows thrust forward, a final push against their light, striking terror into their hearts. "Tom! Look out!" Lily screamed as a shadow darted from behind. "Lily!" He turned in time to see the darkness launch itself at her, but before he could react, he felt a sting of cold rushing through him. Darkness seeped into his skin, a sharp, paralyzing chill. As he struggled to breathe, the world around him blurred. Everything faded but the glimmer of Lily's frightened face, pure terror reflecting in her wide eyes. Would this be the last time they saw each other? And then, from the depths of that suffocating void, he heard an ominous whisper curling through the darkness, smooth and thrumming. "You can never leave, not until you face your truth." What truth? The shadows swirled, relentless, and Tom's grip faltered, a sinking dread pooling in his stomach. "Tom!" Lily's cry chipped through the haze, a striking reminder of what was at stake, but in the cold depths of despair, would he have the will to fight back against their haunted past? As the shadows tightened their grip, a flicker of something washed over Tom, a desperate flicker. In that liminal moment, among panic-stricken breaths, one thought pressed forward. Would they defy the darkness together? "Stay with me," he shouted, but with every ounce of being consumed, dread clawed at their reality. Before they could answer, the shadows closed in, icy fingers grasping, and everything spiraled into darkness. What awaited them beyond those relationships they hoped to escape? Tom's eyes fluttered open, cold seeping into his bones as the darkness roared around them. He felt disoriented, like waking from a dream into a nightmare. "Where are we?" he gasped, the walls pulsing, constricting, like a living entity too close for comfort. "Lily?" The name escaped his lips, a desperate prayer. He struggled to push himself up, but the shadows were everywhere, thick, suffocating. He reached out frantically, searching for her. "Tom!" Her voice broke through the shadows, faint yet cutting. He couldn't tell where it came from, the noise swirling around him like a tempest. Stay close. He called, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and resolve. Suddenly, the shadows shifted, parting just enough to reveal his daughter, crouched against the far wall. Fear radiated from her, a vibrant aura that clashed with the dark. She looked smaller, more fragile, and Tom's heart clenched at the sight. But then, something shifted in the air. The menacing whispers that had filled the void morphed into a laugh, low, guttural, and throaty, resonating from every corner of the room. You think you can take her from me? She belongs to the darkness now. A frigid rush of dread crept into Tom's chest. It was that same voice, familiar, taunting. Don't listen to it, Lily. He surged toward her, stepping through the encroaching dark. The chill prickled his skin like shards of ice. We're not leaving each other. Daddy, I'm scared. Lily cried, her eyes wide and shimmering with unshed tears. I know, sweetheart. But remember the light? We have it in us. He could feel the warmth of their shared memories pulse like a heartbeat. But shadows coiled around him, invasive and invasive. They whispered doubts, echoing fears, his own failures as a father, past mistakes he wished he could forget. Each whisper cut deeper, prying at the cracks in his resolve. You could never protect her. Look where you are. No. He struggled against the tide of memories, wielding them as weapons instead of weights. Lily and I will never be broken. Meanwhile, the shadows grew bolder, consuming the air, gnashing their hideous teeth, an army of despair. They lunged at him, hungry for his fear, wanting to drag him into the depths of despair. Tom lingered on a memory, the day they brought Lily home, her tiny fingers gripping his. That warmth flared inside him, illuminating the darkness with colors long thought lost. Think of the light. Focus. He felt it, desperately reaching for the spark that flickered within, refusing to extinguish. Beside him, Lily was bathed in the glow as her own memories flooded through her. Summer days, singing in the car, bedtime stories, each memory a thread weaving them tighter. As they embraced that light, it erupted from them like a star newly born, pushing against the shadows, roiling and thrashing in rage. Tom felt the shadows recoil, the gripping darkness lost its purchase. But it didn't stop, it didn't relent. Foolish mortals. The force snarled, voice a thunder clashing through the air. You cannot win. I own your fears. A dark wave surged forward, threatening to drown their light, but Tom persisted. We are more than just fear. We are love. In an explosion of brilliant light, they united, forcing the shadows to split, revealing a familiar door flickering in the distance. Hope surged, raw and electric. There. That's our way out. Don't let go. Lily shouted back, determination curling her lips even as chaos unfurled around them. They broke forward, hearts pounding with adrenaline, racing against the howl of the darkness. Yet, just as they reached the door, a horrific shriek echoed. The voice was alive, desperate. You'll never leave. You must claim what is yours. Tom paused, heart racing. What did that mean? What part of their past lay hidden in that taunt? Suddenly, a searing pain surged through his head. Images of yesterday, sprinkled in regrets and shadows, flashed behind his eyelids. What did they need to confront? The light flickered, dimming against the tide as the presence grew more furious, relentless. Face it. Or stay forever. Tom. Lily grasped his arm, her eyes unwavering, the fierce love shining through the terror. Whatever it is, we can face it together. But would it be enough? As they lunged for the door, time slowed, shadows clawing at their heels, dark voices whispering secrets that twisted like blades. What awaited beyond that threshold could shift everything they knew. Would the truth free them or shackle them forever? Tom and Lily burst through the door, crashing into an unfamiliar world that spun with kaleidoscopic colors and echoes of laughter. He blinked away the suffocating shadows, the darkness retreating but not gone. The air wrapped around them, warm and inviting, reminiscent of home. Sunlight beamed down, illuminating the colorful garden bursting with blooms, where the stillness of the untainted air churned with unfamiliar vibrancy. "Daddy, is this?" Lily's voice trembled, a curious mix of hope and fear, but something else glimmered in her eyes, determination. "Only if we let it be," he whispered, intertwining fingers with hers as they stepped into the moment, heartbeats echoing the rhythm of their breaths. They had crossed a threshold, but something lingered deep within. The past was still tethered to them, shadows that whispered like secrets left unspoken. In the distance, figures danced in gleeful currents, memories of their lives forgotten. Tom could see them now: Maggie, the neighbor girl, old Mr. Wilson who had passed last summer, Mrs. Thompson, laughing and waving. They all seemed blissfully unaware of the darkness that hovered behind. "It's so perfect here," Lily murmured, her eyes wide with wonder. "Can we stay forever?" Yet, Tom felt the air's stillness holding its breath, as if waiting for something to happen. "We can, but we need to confront our truth first," he said, searching deep within himself. Could this be what the voice beckoned him to face? The warmth of light enveloping them glimmered, asking if they could own their past, the mistakes and pain they often wished to forget. Suddenly, the laughter faded, the world around them pricking silence like a cold needle. Tom felt the shadows creeping at the edges of this haven, threatening to drag them back. "Daddy!" Lily's voice cut through the stillness, slicing like a whip. He turned to see her shivering, shadows entwining at her feet. "I don't want them to come back." Her fear struck hard like a punch to the gut. Then he remembered. "They can't touch us unless we let them." He knelt beside her, locking his eyes with hers. "Think of the light, Lily. Remember when we first saw the stars together? When you learned to ride the bike? All those moments of laughter, of love." With every heartbeat, Tom felt a golden light beginning to swirl around them, slicing through the thickening shadows. Lily closed her eyes, bringing up memories as if they were treasures she would not let go of. "And all those silly games we played at the park," she whispered. "And, you missed the goal in soccer." A chuckle broke through the chill, and the light flared, banishing some shadows retreating into the corners. As Tom joined her, memories spilled forth from his heart, stumbling through park picnics, bonding over midnight snacks, and dancing in the living room spontaneously. "Hold on, sweetheart," he shouted, feeling her strength pouring into him as their shared light grew. The shadows writhed in frustration but seemed caught in the pull of their brightness, struggling to manifest. "We need to finish what we started. The drawing. Our truth needs to be completed," Tom urged, adrenaline surging through his veins. With a flick of inspiration, he pulled his sketchpad from his pocket, filled with remnants of what they fought through. Lily nodded, racing to grab a pencil. "Draw what we feel," she shouted. They sketched furiously, laughter and memories pushing them through the urgency as they rendered each form glowing with brightness, just like their shared moments. The drawing came alive beneath their fingertips, colors glowing vibrantly as they traced not only the moments but the shadows intertwined with them, the fears they shed, the things they defaced and become stronger for. "Together!" Tom cried, and together, they stepped into the portion of the page that glimmered invitingly, an eternal swirling of colors that grew brighter against the encroaching darkness. As they merged into the drawing, reality dissolved around them. Their home dimmed briefly, the shadows howling in their final moments of identity. Just as it felt. Like they would be swallowed whole, a massive surge of light exploded from within as they sealed their creation, forcing all twilight dreams to forge into one magnificent definition of who they were. The air grew still as both light and shadow meshed like swirling clouds, breaking apart as they evaporated. The darkness lifted like a forgotten memory. The playground of Oak Park stood before them, brightly lit by smiles and laughter, echoing back to life. "Daddy, we did it?" Lily's voice quivered, refreshing hope blooming in their hearts. "Yeah, kiddo, we did." Tom smiled, pulling her into a proud embrace. "We faced our fears together, and this love, our light, will keep them at bay." And there, surrounded by the new dawn and all those cherished moments, Tom and Lily stepped into their future, a light that would not only illuminate their path but courage sculpted from facing their shadows head-on. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.